Cool. So, hi, I'm Jack, if it wasn't already obvious. I just open everything with that. It's become my brand type thing. If you go onto my site, it's all there. Yeah, following your brand. So, who am I? Copying Suzanne and in kind of the apparent dog patch style for the evening. This is me as a kid. This, and I'm joking, this was actually like 3 weeks ago. So, as a kid, who I am. Basically, I was really into building things. My dad was a plumber. My granddad did something with chemicals. All I knew is he was the boss, and I liked watching him do work. So I really got into like, how do things happen? How do things work? And that's kind of fueled me for like the last 21 years. Well, no, I probably wasn't conscious when I was initially born, but we'll say like 18. But essentially that's fueled me, and it's brought me to where I am now, which meant to get rid of that. So what I'm working on is a thing called Patch. It's not Dog Patch. It's kind of like a little something that's spun out of it. It's a accelerator, kind of like the Talent Accelerator that was talked about earlier, for really, really high potential young people. So we take like 30 to 16 to 23-year-olds, put them in Dog Patch's office for the summer, let them live together. We book out like apartments and stuff, and they build really, really cool things. It's honestly like I took part in it, but then coming full circle and being on the other side and seeing people who are like, okay, yeah, they're a year younger than me, but they're building like, this year we had a robot that drives underneath a car and like corrects its parking, and like self-adjusting shoes, and all these like mad ideas. Some built just for fun, and some built that like with a real commercial intent. Is really, really cool. And honestly, that's why I love it. I get to like spend a load of time with young people that are kind of embodying, and you'll hear what I worked on before, but they're embodying kind of the spirit I had as a teenager, and I get to kind of take a break from doing it myself and work on helping others do it. And like it's very cathartic, and I get to like see a tangible output in other people's lives with what I'm working on. This summer working on the accelerator was like amazing fun, super tiring because you're like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. For like 7 weeks straight. There's like no rest. I'll get like a phone call at like 3 a.m. because someone locked themselves out of their apartment because they went to go like collect a Deliveroo or something. So really stressful, really, really fun, and amazingly rewarding. And how I ended up here is kind of a slightly longer story. I'm going to hold on this slide for a while, but as you can see, I haven't changed height in like 6 years, 7 years. This is me when I was like 13. This was my first startup. But prior to that, and how I kind of got into making things really intently, was Minecraft. So I like started playing this game when I was like 9, and I got really bored of it, and I was like, oh, I can make this better. So I started teaching myself how to code and make mods for it. I joined a coder dojo, and I was making like pretty cool things to enhance the game. I won't get into like the details, but I really wanted to share these with people, and I was doing a little bit of that in coder dojo. But I liked making things, and I wanted to show them to people, but I didn't know how. So eventually, how I kind of got around that was I'd set up like fake personas online, and like I had a fake LinkedIn for like 6 years under someone else's name, because I was like really kind of embarrassed of like how bad my code was and things like that. But as I was doing this, I was kind of building a bit of confidence in myself, and I went into secondary school, which kind of sounds weird at this point, but I went into secondary school and was like told about this thing called the BT Young Scientist. I did it like 3 or 4 years and won various awards. This was like a photo after one of them. And this was my first kind of foray into startups. I built a thing called I Spy, which looking back is insanely creepy. It's a thing that sits on your kid's phone and tells you everything they do. So like me as a 13-year-old, all my friends hated me because like their parents were using this. We ended up actually like buzzword at the minute, but we built like an AI model that eventually kind of just flagged to your parents when you were doing something inappropriate, which was like great fun because I got to build a document of like swear words and like rude pictures and stuff. And at 13, that was like the best. And then moving on from that, we actually had like a tiny bit of commercial success. We did like the Student Enterprise Awards in like the wrong age category and made a bit of money off it. I think it was fine. And then Google came out with their version. And yeah, 13-year-olds, only one of them knowing how to code was not going to go up against like 30 engineers. And I did that, and then I started working as a plumber just to help out with family and stuff. And I got really into working with my hands. And I built a thing called Alertaboy, which was 2017, the migrant crisis in Syria and the Mediterranean was like huge. So I built basically a big red button that sits on navigational buoys, which are these things that are like littered all over the Mediterranean for ships to figure out where they are. Built a big red button so that if a migrant ship went down, they could call for help. It was super simple, worked off existing technology. Then I brought that to BT Young Scientist, and that actually had like legitimate success. We ended up getting it deployed by like the EU Commission, I think it was, and the Navy. No, the Coast Guard, that's the one. And it was really cool. We sold it for like €1 so they could use it. And then I like said I should do my junior cert. So I took a year off, I guess, and went into fifth year with absolutely no intention of starting anything else. And I fell off a mountain while skiing. So I was stuck in my bedroom for 3 or 4 months, and I got really, really bored. Started playing around with sensors. I bought like a load of kits off Amazon. Amazon Prime saved me during those 3 months. I got like so much entertainment and Lego. But I started building these like touch sensors, and eventually I figured out, hey, I kind of made something neat here. I'm not going to go into the details, but if you have like 3 hours after, I'll talk you through it. But it culminated in kind of this thing that looked like a mirror, but you could like touch it and drag your windows around. And I spent a bit of time researching it, and it turns out no one had done that. So I was like 16. I was like, okay, how do I protect this and stop, Google making another one of my things? So I went to like the local enterprise office and said, hey, can I patent this? And they were like, yeah. Have you money? I said, no. So I tried to file a patent myself. After like 3 attempts, it finally went through, and I could like officially call myself an inventor. That's when the LinkedIn profile went public, and I was like, yes, Jack O'Regan-Kenny, inventor. And that mirror then got shelved. I was like, I have a touchscreen mirror. People can use it to like apply makeup and look at the reflection beside it. Cool, done. It didn't get into BT Young Scientist. So that was kind of what made me shelve it. I was seeking at the time, and throughout all of Mirror, actually, I was seeking a lot of like external validation for what was doing good. And like that was super discouraging. So I shelved it. I then, coming back around, I ended up taking part in Patch. And I applied, and they said, have you an idea? And I said, no. I do have this thing I made, though. And lucky enough, I got in, and that kind of introduced me to, hey, look, here's how startups actually operate, and here's some really cool, interesting people that have done, like, wild things, like made a company out of hardware. There was my mentor, Ben Harris. He was, like, building IoT stuff for kitchens. He was a huge, like, inspiration there. And I was lucky enough to kind of build it into a company through Patch, demoing it there. I still was kind of stuck on like vanity metrics. Like I remember there was one point where I was kind of ignoring what should have been the direction we go, which is like selling to housing developers instead of like people, because all the press really liked that we were selling like makeup mirrors. And I wanted like, I'd gotten into a 30 under 30, and I was like, oh, I want to get into another. And I went down the wrong kind of track. We ended up selling kind of the company. It wasn't in a great state, but we ended up selling it. And then I started another thing called VC Hunt, which I'm looking at the time here, but it matches this because this was incredibly quick. I was super burnt out during Mirror. I'll like say this fast for you. Super burnt out during Mirror, so I like took a break, built a thing that watches what venture capitalists do and like calls them out when they say, hey, we invest in female founders, but they actually don't have any in their portfolio. We started tagging them on Twitter. When they sent us cease and desists, we tagged them in the cease and desists and tweeted those. And then eventually we started getting acquisition offers from VC firms. And we said, no, thank you. Eventually we got a very nice acquisition offer from a Canadian government-backed firm who were like, hey, we're actually going to do good with all this data. And I said, yeah, sure, take it. I was 3 weeks in at this stage to what was my like second grown-up startup. And I was like, okay, cool. How do we sell this thing? And the first piece of advice I got is, hey, you need to actually make it a company first. So the slowest part in our entire acquisition was, oh yeah, this actually like we need to incorporate. And then we had like 2 weeks of like crowdsourcing. Do we do it in Ireland? Do we do it in Delaware? What's the tax look like? And eventually we got it sold fairly quickly. And that was really fun. And it's put me in a very lucky position where I can, take a step back, work for Patch and help other people build some really, really cool things. At conscious time, I'll move on to my advice. Basically, my advice is whether or not you think you're going to do something, give it a go, even if it's under a fake name online. Just like give it a go. Build cool shit and put it on the internet. And like the likelihood is you'll get someone egging you on and it'll give you a bit of confidence. And then maybe you don't do it, but maybe in a while you say, hey, actually, I'm the person that's building this, and it goes somewhere. Or equally, when you're doing stuff you don't like, just stop. That was one thing I had to get really good at, was like, hey, we're doing parts of Mirror that I didn't really like. So we just stopped doing that, and it was probably better for us as a team because we weren't like arguing about it. So I think just whatever you're good, I'm like echoing Suzanne here, it's very dog patchy. Just go for your gut, and if like use pseudonyms, use the internet and its anonymity to your advantage in kind of testing and trying and building things. I think that's it.